by the authority of Jesus' name. Connect your faith to this anointed channel. Hit subscribe and receive what God has prepared for you. Beloved of the Lord, today is not just another Sunday. It is a divine appointment for healing, restoration, and the mending of every silent H within your heart. Have you ever felt surrounded by people, yet still deeply alone? Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? And what has your heart been carrying in silence? There are moments when loneliness whispers lies and heartache feels heavier than hope. But today we rise in power and prayer. Have you ever wondered if healing could begin in a single moment of surrender? And what would your life look like if peace replaced that inner emptiness right now? Something shifts when faith speaks louder than pain. Chains loosen, burdens lift. And the soul remembers it was never created to suffer in isolation. Do you believe this could be your turning point today? Share this with someone who needs strength, because healing multiplies when hope is shared. You are not forgotten. You are being restored. Can you feel that stirring within you, that quiet courage rising again? Tell me, what area of your heart needs healing most today? Let your voice be heard, because breakthrough begins when we open our hearts and dare to believe again. Loneliness is not your identity. It is a season that can be healed. Have you ever caught yourself believing that being alone defines who you are? Have you ever felt like the silence around you started sounding like a permanent label instead of a temporary moment? Sometimes loneliness wraps itself so tightly around the heart that it begins to feel familiar, almost like part of your personality. Have you ever wondered when that feeling first began to settle into your life? Can you remember a moment when connection felt natural and joy felt effortless? The truth is, loneliness is an experience, not your essence. Have you ever paused to ask yourself what you were created to feel instead of what you are currently feeling? What if the emptiness you sense is not proof of absence, but evidence of your deep capacity to love and be loved? Many people quietly carry loneliness the way others carry visible burdens. Do you find yourself smiling in public, but feeling hollow in private? Have you ever wished someone could hear the thoughts you never say out loud? Seasons change, and emotional seasons do too. Can you think of other difficult seasons you survived that once felt endless? What if this season is preparing you for a deeper connection than you've ever known? Loneliness often tries to convince you that you are unseen. But let me ask you, have you ever truly explored the depth of your own presence? When was the last time you sat with yourself and listened without judgment? Sometimes the healing begins when we stop running from the feeling and start understanding it. Have you ever asked your loneliness what it is trying to teach you? Could it be pointing to a need that has been waiting for your attention? Your emotions are signals, not sentences carved in stone. Have you been treating a passing feeling like a permanent destiny? What would shift if you began to see loneliness as something moving through you rather than something living inside you? There is a difference between being alone and being disconnected. Do you know what kind of connection your heart is truly craving right now? Is it understanding, companionship, purpose, or simply to be heard? Sometimes loneliness grows louder when life transitions happen. Have you recently experienced change, lost distance, disappointment, or unexpected silence? How did that shift affect the way you see yourself? The heart was designed for rhythm, giving and receiving, loving and being loved. Do you feel like that rhythm has been interrupted in your life? What would it feel like to believe that harmony can be restored? You are not broken because you feel lonely or human. Have you been judging yourself for emotions that simply need compassion? What if kindness toward yourself became the first step toward healing? Loneliness often feeds on the stories we repeat internally. What have you been telling yourself about your worth lately? Are those words nurturing you or draining you? Sometimes the mind creates conclusions that the soul never agreed with. Have you accepted beliefs about yourself that were formed in moments of pain? What if those beliefs were never meant to stay? Healing begins when truth gently replaces assumption. Can you imagine what it would feel like to release the idea that you are meant to be alone? What possibilities might open if you allowed hope to take up space again? Connection does not always begin with others. Sometimes it begins within. Do you feel connected to your own voice, your own needs, your own desires? When was the last time you honored what your heart was truly asking for? Loneliness can make the world feel distant, but awareness brings things closer again. Have you noticed small moments of warmth today? A kind word, a memory, a breath of peace. What if those small moments are signs that connection is already returning? Your story is still unfolding. Have you ever considered that this season might be shaping a deeper strength inside you? What qualities are growing in you right now that didn't exist before? Even in quiet spaces, transformation is happening. Can you sense something within you that refuses to give up? What keeps that spark alive inside your heart? You are not defined by the silence you feel. You are defined by the life still moving within you. Have you placed your hand over your heart lately and simply noticed that you are still here? What does that persistence say about your strength? Loneliness may visit, but it does not have permission to build a permanent home. Can you picture yourself gently reclaiming the space it has occupied? What would healing look like for you if it started today in this very moment? Healing begins the moment faith speaks louder than emotional pain. Have you ever noticed how pain tries to dominate your thoughts the moment you wake up? Have you ever wondered what would happen if something stronger than that pain began speaking inside you instead? Emotional pain has a voice. It reminds you of what hurt, what broke, what was lost. Do you ever catch yourself replaying memories that drain your strength? How often does your heart rehearse wounds instead of possibilities? Faith has a voice too, but it speaks differently, quieter, steadier, deeper. Have you ever sensed a gentle whisper within telling you that things can still change? What if that whisper has been waiting for you to listen more closely? Pain shouts, but faith affirms. Have you noticed how loud fear becomes when you focus only on what went wrong? What shifts inside you when you dare to imagine what could still go right? Healing does not begin when pain disappears. It begins when faith rises in the middle of it. Have you ever experienced strength while you were still hurting? Can you remember a moment when hope showed up before circumstances changed? Emotional pain often demands evidence before it will release you. Does your heart ever say, I'll believe healing is possible when I see proof? What if faith works the other way around, believing first and then seeing transformation unfold? Faith is not denial of pain. It is refusal to let pain have the final word. Have you been waiting for your feelings to improve before you trust that healing is happening? What if trust itself is the doorway that allows healing to enter? Sometimes emotional wounds become so familiar that they start to feel like truth. Have you ever mistaken what you feel for what is permanent? What would it mean to separate your experience from your destiny? Pain tells you what has happened. Faith tells you what is still possible. Which voice have you been listening to more lately? When was the last time you intentionally chose a hopeful thought instead of a fearful one? Your inner world responds to what you magnify. Do you find yourself magnifying loss, disappointment, and rejection? What might happen if you magnified resilience, growth, and restoration instead? Faith changes the atmosphere within before it changes the circumstances around you. Have you ever walked into a room carrying heaviness and then felt something shift when you chose peace instead? How powerful do you think your inner agreement really is? Emotional pain narrows your vision until all you see is what hurts. Have you noticed how suffering can make the future feel smaller? What would your future look like if faith expanded your vision again? Faith is not just belief, it is alignment. Are your thoughts aligned with healing, or are they aligned with hurt? What do your daily words reveal about what you truly expect? Sometimes healing begins with a single decision, the decision to believe you are not beyond restoration. Have you made that decision yet? Or are you still negotiating with doubt? Pain wants you to identify with the wound. Faith invites you to identify with your strength. Which identity feels more familiar to you right now? Which one do you want to grow into? The heart follows the direction of your focus. Where has your focus been resting lately? On what broke you or on what can rebuild you? Can you feel how that focus shapes your emotional energy? Faith does not erase memory, but it transforms meaning. Are there painful experiences in your life that still feel unfinished? What if those experiences could become sources of wisdom instead of sources of suffering? When faith grows louder, emotional pain loses authority. Have you ever noticed how courage weakens fear without even arguing with it? What might happen if you stopped debating your pain and started strengthening your faith? Healing is often subtle at first, a shift in perspective, a softening of tension, a return of possibility. Have you felt any small emotional shifts recently that you almost overlooked? What if those small shifts are the early signs of something greater unfolding? Faith trains the heart to expect renewal. What are you expecting in this season of your life? Are your expectations shaped by past wounds or future hope? Your emotional world responds to leadership, and you are the leader within it. Have you been allowing pain to lead your thoughts and reactions? What would change if faith became the guiding voice instead? Sometimes the most powerful moment of healing is the moment you decide that pain will not interpret your life for you anymore. Have you reached that moment yet? If not now, when? Faith does not require perfect certainty, it requires willingness. Are you willing to believe that restoration is possible even if you cannot see how? Are you willing to let hope speak even while healing is still unfolding? Because the moment faith speaks louder than emotional pain, something within you begins to reorganize, realign, and respond. And can you feel that shift beginning even now? You are divinely connected even when you feel emotionally isolated. Have you ever been in a crowded room and still felt completely alone inside? And have you ever wondered why your heart can feel disconnected even when people are physically close to you? Emotional isolation can create the illusion that you are separate, unseen, or somehow outside the flow of love and belonging. Have you ever felt like no one truly understands what you carry within? When was the last time you felt deeply seen, not just noticed, but truly understood? Connection is not only physical presence, it is spiritual awareness, emotional resonance, and inner alignment. Do you ever pause long enough to sense the deeper connections that exist beyond what your eyes can see? What if connection has been present all along? Your pain has made it harder to recognize. Sometimes emotional isolation comes from experiences that taught you it was safer to withdraw than to open up. Have past disappointments made you more guarded than you used to be? Do you notice yourself holding back parts of who you are, even when you long to be known? Yet even in withdrawal, something within you still longs for connection. Can you feel that quiet desire for closeness that never fully disappears? Why do you think that longing continues to live inside you no matter how much distance you create? That longing is not weakness. It is evidence of design. Have you ever considered that your need for connection is part of how you were created? What if your heart recognizes bonds that your emotions sometimes forget? Being divinely connected means your life is woven into something greater than your current feelings. Do you ever sense moments when guidance, comfort, or peace appears unexpectedly? Have you ever felt supported in ways you couldn't fully explain? Emotional isolation often focuses your attention on what is missing. What if connection is not always something you must find? What if it is something you awaken to? How would your perspective change if you believed you are never truly disconnected? Sometimes isolation grows when we disconnect from ourselves first. Do you feel in touch with your own emotions, or do you push them aside to keep functioning? When was the last time you truly listened to what your inner world was trying to tell you? Self-disconnection can make the world feel distant too. Have you noticed how hard it is to feel close to others when you feel far from your own heart? What might happen if reconnection began within you first? There are invisible threads of meaning, purpose, and presence running through your life at all times. Have you ever reflected on the moments that shaped you, guided you, or protected you? Could those moments be signs that you have never been navigating life alone? Isolation tells you that you are separate. Truth reminds you that you are held within a greater network of care and purpose. Do you ever look back and see how certain people, opportunities, or insights arrived exactly when you needed them? What does that say about the nature of your connection to life itself? Sometimes emotional isolation is intensified by silence, the absence of affirmation, reassurance, or understanding. Do you find silence comforting or heavy? What meaning do you usually attach to quiet moments? Silence does not always mean absence. Could it sometimes be space for awareness to grow? Have you ever noticed clarity emerging when everything becomes still? Divine connection is often felt most strongly in stillness. When you quiet your thoughts, what do you sense beneath the noise? Is there a presence, a calm, a subtle reassurance that you are not alone? Even when others cannot fully understand your journey, connection still exists beyond human comprehension. Have you ever felt strengthened by something you couldn't see or explain? What did that experience feel like in your body, in your spirit? Isolation can make you question your place in the world. Do you ever wonder where you truly belong? What if belonging is not something granted by others, but something rooted within your very existence? You belong because you exist, not because you are approved, validated, or constantly accompanied. How would your life change if you truly believed that your presence matters simply because you are here? What would shift in your confidence? Your openness, your willingness to connect. Connection is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it is subtle, steady, and deeply internal. Have you ever felt comfort arise quietly within you without any external reason? Where do you think that comfort comes from? Emotional isolation can cloud perception. It cannot erase truth. Do you think feelings always reflect reality accurately? Or have you experienced moments when your emotions told one story while your deeper awareness told another? You may feel distant, but distance is not disconnection. Can you imagine the difference between feeling separated and actually being separated? What if your awareness simply needs realignment? Every breath you take connects you to life itself. Have you ever paused and noticed the rhythm of your breathing? What does that steady rhythm remind you about continuity and presence? Connection is woven into existence, into relationships, purpose, growth, and awareness. Where do you see signs of connection in your life right now, even if they seem small? What if those small signs are invitations to notice something greater? Even in moments of emotional isolation, something continues reaching toward you through intuition, memory, hope, and quiet reassurance. Can you sense those gentle movements within you? What might happen if you trusted them more deeply? Prayer activates restoration in places silence has been hurting. Have you ever noticed how some of your deepest wounds live in the spaces where no words are spoken? And have you ever wondered why the quietest pains often feel the heaviest to carry? Silence can hold what tears never released and what conversations never expressed. Is there something in your life you never fully talked about with anyone? How long have you been carrying feelings that were never given a voice? Sometimes silence becomes a hiding place for pain that feels too complicated to explain. Have you ever told yourself, it's easier not to talk about it? What emotions have you learned to quietly push aside just to keep moving forward? But what remains unspoken does not remain inactive. Have you felt how buried emotions still influence your thoughts, your energy, and your sense of peace? Can you sense how silence can store tension even when everything on the outside looks calm? Prayer enters the places where words once stopped. Have you ever tried to express something but didn't have the language for it? What if your heart could communicate even when your voice cannot? There are hurts that lie beneath logic, disappointments, grief, rejection, unanswered questions. Do you have memories that still carry emotional weight no matter how much time has passed? Why do you think some feelings linger quietly instead of fading away? Silence often forms when expression feels unsafe or unwelcome. Have you ever held back tears because you didn't want to appear weak? When did you first learn that some emotions should be hidden rather than released? Prayer gently opens spaces that have been closed for protection. Have you ever felt relief just by admitting what you truly feel, even if only in private? What changes inside you when honesty replaces suppression? Restoration begins when what was buried is finally acknowledged. Is there something within you that has been waiting to be seen, heard, or understood? What would happen if you allowed that hidden place to be touched by compassion? Silence can make pain feel permanent because it is never processed. Have you ever mistaken unexpressed pain for healing simply because time passed? What if time alone does not restore, but intentional connection does? Prayer is not just speaking, it is releasing, trusting, opening. When was the last time you allowed yourself to fully release what you've been holding inside? Did you notice any shift in your breathing, your body, your emotional weight? Sometimes silence builds walls that feel impossible to break. Have you grown so used to emotional distance that vulnerability feels uncomfortable now? What would it take for you to feel safe enough to open even a small part of your heart? Prayer does not force healing, it invites it. Do you believe restoration can happen gently without pressure or urgency? What if healing unfolds at the pace your heart can receive? Many people live with quiet exhaustion from carrying unspoken burdens. Do you ever feel tired in ways that sleep cannot fix? Could that tiredness be connected to emotions that have never been released? Silence can create the illusion that nothing is happening inside you. Have you ever felt sudden waves of emotion that seemed to come from nowhere? What if those waves are signals from places that have been waiting to be restored? Prayer brings awareness to what silence concealed. Have you noticed how attention itself can bring clarity to confusing emotions? What becomes visible when you simply pause and listen inwardly? Restoration is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is a soft loosening, a gentle release, a quiet sense of relief. Have you experienced moments when emotional pressure slowly faded without you fully understanding why? Could that be the beginning of restoration at work? Silence often isolates pain, but prayer reconnects it to compassion. Do you feel different when your struggles are acknowledged rather than ignored? What happens to emotional weight when it is shared, even in the most personal way? Your inner world responds when it feels safe to open. Do you create space in your life for emotional honesty? When was the last time you allowed yourself to feel without trying to control or fix the feeling? Prayer activates movement where stagnation once lived. Have you ever sensed emotional heaviness begin to shift simply because you stopped resisting it? What might change if you allowed healing to move naturally instead of forcing it? Silence stores what prayer releases. Can you imagine the difference between holding everything inside and letting something flow outward? Which one feels lighter just thinking about it? Restoration reaches into memories, emotions, and hidden layers of experience. Are there parts of your story you rarely revisit because they still feel tender? What would it feel like for those memories to hold less pain and more peace? Prayer touches what silence protected but could not heal. Have you ever realized that protecting pain is not the same as restoring it? What if true healing begins the moment you allow something deeper than silence to respond? Even the quietest wounds respond to attention, compassion, and presence. Can you feel that some part of you has been waiting for that gentle attention? And what if restoration has already begun in the very places where silence once held everything? Heartache can become the doorway to deeper strength and renewal. Have you ever noticed how pain has a way of reshaping you, even when you didn't ask for the change? And have you ever wondered why some of your hardest moments eventually reveal unexpected growth? Heartache often feels like something that only takes from you your peace, your certainty, your emotional stability. Have you ever felt like something precious was taken from your life without warning? What part of your heart feels different now compared to before the pain began? When something breaks inside you, it creates space, and space always invites something new to form. Have you ever considered that loss can create room for transformation? What if the very place that hurts is also the place where strength is being built? Most people try to escape heartache as quickly as possible. Have you ever rushed yourself to move on before you fully understood what you went through? What emotions did you silence just to feel normal again? Strength is not formed by avoidance. It is formed by engagement, awareness, and emotional processing. Have you ever allowed yourself to truly sit with your pain without trying to fix it? What did you discover about yourself in that honest moment? Heartache exposes what matters most to you. Have you noticed how pain reveals your deepest values, attachments, and desires? What does your heartache reveal about what your heart truly longs for? Sometimes we think pain weakens us, but often it reveals resilience we didn't know we possessed. Have you ever survived something you once believed would completely break you? When you look back, can you see how much stronger you became because you endured it? Renewal begins when meaning is discovered within the pain. Have you ever asked yourself what your difficult experiences have taught you? What wisdom do you carry now that you didn't have before the heartache? Strength formed through struggle is different from strength formed through comfort. Do you notice how challenges sharpen awareness and deepen understanding? What parts of your character have grown stronger because life tested you? Heartache slows you down and forces reflection. Have you ever been pushed into stillness by emotional pain? What truths about your life became clearer when everything paused? Sometimes renewal begins with the realization that you are still standing. Have you taken a moment to acknowledge your survival? What does it say about your inner strength that you are still here, still breathing, still moving forward? Pain often strips away illusions and reveals reality more clearly. Have you ever seen people, situations, or even yourself differently after experiencing heartache? What insights became visible only after the emotional storm passed? There is a refining process hidden within difficulty. Do you feel like certain experiences have reshaped your priorities? What matters to you now that didn't seem important before? Heartache deepens empathy. Have you noticed how your compassion for others has grown after experiencing pain yourself? Do you find it easier now to understand struggles that once seemed distant or abstract? Renewal is not about returning to who you were. It is about becoming who you are capable of becoming. Have you ever sensed that you are evolving into a stronger version of yourself? Qualities are emerging in you that didn't exist before. Pain stretches emotional capacity. Have you realized how much more you can feel, understand, and endure now? How has your ability to navigate life changed since your hardest experiences? Sometimes heartache breaks patterns that comfort would never challenge.